Power creep, the bane of every player's existence. To be fair though, power creep is a normal occurrence in most games nowadays. To be more specific, most live service games. But for today's video, we will focus on gacha games and more specifically on Wuthering Waves. I want to discuss with you guys a few ways that power creep hits games nowadays. Gacha characters getting stronger and dealing more damage, gacha character mechanics becoming more complex and intricate, bosses having more HP, bosses dealing more damage, bosses having more complex and intricate mechanics, and weapons or gear becoming stronger and more specific, or both. Now, whether we like it or not, that is the game model that gacha games consist of, generating FOMO and making players want their newest and shiniest unit after each and every month. But in general, power creep in and of itself is not a problem. Power creep dates back to some of the oldest games out there where every new shiny piece of gear or weapon was stronger than the last. The problem comes when developers bypass players' trust and generate a power creep that's extremely predatory, releasing content that each and every time overshadows the last and renders it nearly useless, all in an effort to milk their player base as dry and as much as they can. Now we return to Wuthering Waves, a game where developers so far have managed power creep pretty well. It's been about a year and a half since the release of Wuthering Waves, and dare I say some of its first ever characters still clear content to this day. Of course, with a lot more difficulty than others. Some standard banner units still shine to this day as well, as such is the case for characters like Mortefi, Sanhua, and Verena. With that said though, what's the point of this video? Well, recently, we have been having a ton of controversy around Wuthering Waves because of the brand new floors added to Tower of Adversity. I've myself shared my opinions on the topic, and tons of other creators have gone out of their way to post theirs. In one side, you have players clearing Tower with all kinds of team comps, from the latest released characters to 4 stars and even the free main character, and saying it was a fun experience. They enjoyed the challenge of putting their teams to the test and having to think as to what units to use and where to use them to get the most out of their roster. And in the other side, we have players angrily claiming it's impossible to clear for free-to-play players, angry that their older units have a much harder time clearing content when compared to the latest and greatest characters, and claiming this is the absolute peak of predatory power creep. So what my community and I decided to do was go undercover into as many videos from other creators and their communities as possible to find out what has players so upset and what it is they are exactly claiming to be peak predatory power creep. And well, after a few days of research, we have put together a list of the complaints people have regarding Tower and the overall state of the game. And well, here they are. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you might want to buckle up because some of these takes are, well, interesting. Number 1. Older units, no matter how old, should always be able to easily clear all endgame content. Number 2. You shouldn't require signature weapons on your characters. Number 3. You shouldn't require mid-max echoes to easily clear endgame content. Number 4. You shouldn't require premium teams to beat endgame content easily. Number 5. You shouldn't have to sweat and maximize your gameplay to easily beat endgame content. Number 6. Endgame mechanics should always cater to all units equally. For example, they shouldn't make enemies that move too fast or run away, as more stationary characters will have a hard time with them. Number 7. Endgame modes should never cater to the newest released characters by adding buffs that fit their playstyle more than others. Number 8. Character dupes shouldn't give units more viability as they get older. Instead, units should always be able to easily clear content at S0 even if they are 1, 2, or 3 years old. Number 9. All characters should deal the same damage and enemies should have the same HP and damage dealt. Number 10. And last but not least, I shouldn't have to pull multiple characters to clear endgame modes. Now guys, if you haven't been disgusted by these takes and clicked off the video, it's time we discuss and break some of these things down because boy oh boy, some of these takes are flat out abysmal. Now guys, let's talk about them. First off, older units, no matter how old, should always be able to easily clear all endgame content. Now, I do feel that older units should have a lot of longevity, and they should be able to clear endgame content for a very long time. But saying that they should be able to easily clear endgame content no matter how old they get is not really how gacha games work, and it's not how their model is meant to be. So if this is your thoughts, you might as well quit gacha gaming, because it's just a reality of things that as time passes, older units will start to fall behind. For the second one, you shouldn't require signature weapons on your characters. Now, I do agree that you shouldn't require signature weapons on your character, but it's also very obvious that having signature weapons on your characters are going to make them stronger, and it's going to be easier to beat endgame content with the signature weapon of your character. That's pretty much obvious. I don't think anybody should debate this, and the simple fact of people not wanting to get the signature weapon on a character is already nerfing them a little bit and making that fall off come even faster. For the third one, you shouldn't require mid-max echoes to easily clear endgame content. Now, when people talk about mid-max echoes, they're talking about 3 to 4 rolls out of the 5 possible rolls on an echo. Now, I don't know how some of you play the game, but I think it's not even mid-max if you only have like 3 good rolls on an echo piece. I think mid-maxing is when you have like 4 or maybe even 5, and that's like a god tier echo. But if you only have like 2 or 3 good rolls on an echo, that's a common echo. Having 4 rolls, that's a pretty damn good echo. So people not wanting to have mid-max echoes is once again another way of nerfing yourself and bringing that fall off even faster. I don't think that you should be worrying about beating endgame content if you're not trying to mid-max your echoes or even get solid echo builds. For the fourth one, you shouldn't require premium teams to beat endgame content easily. Now, if you guys have noticed, I'm putting a big emphasis on easily, because a lot of people say that that's the caveat, easily, right? They want to be able to beat endgame content easily. They're not just happy that they're beating endgame content without premium teams. They're not happy that they're beating endgame content without having, mid-max echoes. They're not happy that they're beating endgame content with older units. They want to do it easily. And I'm gonna be honest, if you're not getting the signature weapon, if you're not mid-maxing your echoes, if you're using old units, and then on top of that, you also don't want to use premium teams, the amount of red flags on your build or on what you're saying is gigantic. You're putting too many self-inflicted nerves on your clears to then say it's power creep. Now, if we were talking about an account that has, good units, their signature weapons, good mid-max echoes, and premium teams, and then they can't beat content, then that's a problem. Moving on to the next one, you shouldn't have to sweat and maximize your gameplay to easily beat endgame content. Once again, people aren't happy that they are beating endgame content. They're upset because they have to sweat to beat said content. They want to be able to do it easily. It don't matter if they're using the first ever released units without their signature weapon, without premium teams, with mid-echo builds. They don't care about that. They want to be able to do it easily. And I'm going to be honest with you. Once again, learn your characters, learn your rotations, maximize your gameplay to have an easier time beating content. For the next one, endgame mechanics should always cater to all units. This makes absolutely 0 sense. Units are very different. You have your up close and personal characters, you have your long range characters, you have your characters that will slow down enemies, you have your characters that will deal, big AoE damage, you have the characters that will deal damage over multiple hits, you have the characters that will deal damage in one big hit. There is so much variety in the gameplay that making endgame cater to everything at the same time would make things so boring, and overall, I don't even know how they could go about doing that, because you wouldn't be able to take advantage of the characters, and at that point, they should just make every enemy just a stationary target. Because how can they make AoE fights and have single target enemies be very good and viable for said mode? They have to have a variety in the enemies, in the bosses, in the modes, to make things more fun. That's just the way it is. For the next one, endgame mode should never cater to the newest released character by adding buffs that fit their playstyle more than others. Good news for you. You might want to quit gacha, because the reality of it is that when it comes to 99% of gacha games, they always cater their content to the brand new released character. It's a business at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not happy that they do it, but it's just the way it is. We can complain all we want, but when it comes to gachas, they have to do something to want to make you get their latest and greatest character, and that's just the way they do it. Whether it's endgame modes or some weekly buffs or something, they usually cater to the newest released characters. The next one, character dupes shouldn't give units more viability as they get older. I'ma be honest with you. I do not know where y'all think that statement makes sense. Character dupes, the thing that effectively makes a character stronger, shouldn't give them more viability as they get older. Do y'all even understand what y'all are saying with that? Y'all are wanting S0 characters to be able to easily clear content 3 years down the line. And you shouldn't have to get dupes to have that be the results you want. You just want them to easily be able to clear content 3 years down the line and not require you to get dupes on those older units to give them more longevity and viability as they get older. Absolutely brain dead take. That's probably one of the dumbest takes that I've read in some of these comments, because that makes no sense. Why would people wail? Why would people get dupes? Why would people take the time to want to make their characters stronger if you could just beat everything easily 3 years down the line? Next one. All characters should deal the same damage and enemies should have the same HP and damage dealt. Once again, quit gacha if this is what you think. Because the reality of it is that it's just not how the game model is meant to be. In gacha games, characters will progressively get stronger, enemies will progressively get stronger, and that's just the way it is. Wanting every character to deal the same amount of damage and the enemies to have the same exact HP and deal the same amount of damage is a surefire way to kill a game, because there is no excitement. There is no excitement to anything. You would never see more damage from the units you're pulling, and the bosses would always die exactly the same. And that's pretty much tied back to people saying they want to be able to clear endgame content with the same character without any problems 3 years down the line. And once again, it makes absolutely zero sense. And the last one, you shouldn't have to pull multiple characters to clear endgame mode. I'm gonna be honest, this is a team-based gacha game where you actively use 3 characters. There are multiple types of game modes. Something like Tower of Adversity, Wuthering Waves, and I'm sure eventually they'll add more game modes. You're pretty much going to have to build multiple characters because it's a team-based game. You know what I'm saying? If you're playing this game for 1, 2, 3 years, there should be absolutely zero problem with the amount of currency that we're getting for people to have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams built as time goes on. Maybe not as soon as you start, but as time goes on. So if you think you shouldn't pull multiple characters to clear endgame modes, I have to tell you something. Go find a gacha game where you only need 1 character. But in a team-based gacha game, that really makes no sense. Now, if you guys agree or disagree with these takes, let me know in the comments section below, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I do agree that power creep should be managed accordingly, and, ideally, developers won't try to milk us as much as your mama tries to milk me. But the reality of it is that power creep is always present, whether it's because of, once again, characters getting stronger, enemies getting tankier, or simply gameplay mechanics. Gameplay mechanics is for sure another way that power creep could, creep up on us, making enemies move faster, dodge better, fly up in the air and things like that. It's going to happen. But the simple issue of people saying that you shouldn't need best in slot teams, signature weapon, mix-max echoes, you know, premium everything is absolutely ridiculous. Now, the reason and the final thing I will say that I had to make this video is because it didn't matter what examples were being showed. It didn't matter if people were saying, yo, I'm clearing the tower with my free-to-play account and I don't have Augusta or Cardathea. I'm doing this with these characters. Oh, well, you're just a sweat. You're just a tryhard. That's why you cleared it. That doesn't count. It didn't matter if people showed, themselves clearing tower free-to-play, because then people would say, well, you have the signature weapons. That doesn't count. It's still pay to win. It didn't matter if people were using 4 stars to clear the tower. I've seen people clear the tower with 4-star characters. Yes, including the middle tower, with free-to-play teams at that. Rover and things like that, which is a 5-star, but is a free-to-play character. And what would people say? Nah, bro, that doesn't count. You're just a sweat. You get arthritis when you play. It's still pay to win. It didn't matter what reasons people threw out there. Now, that is not to say that things are getting harder, that people are required to play better, build better, pull better. It is a fact that all those things are happening. But it's about time Wuthering Waves, in my opinion, and I guess a lot of other people's opinions, starts tidying up their endgame, because up to now, endgame has been a cakewalk. Ever since the launch of the game, people have been able to beat endgame with 4-star characters with relatively minimal investment. And when it comes to endgame, people that have been playing for a year or so are now kind of bored. So them giving us just 2 floors, which by the way, didn't affect the pool that everybody else was getting. They didn't affect the asteroids whatsoever. People are still getting the same 30 stars with the same amount of asteroids. Now they just have an option to get more. Should never be a problem. If anything, it gives people the incentive to start working on their accounts, start building more teams, so then they can clear it. Now, if eventually power creep does become a bigger problem in Wuthering Waves, you best believe we're all gonna hop on Kuro's ass, and we're going to tell them how it is. We're going to call them out, and we're going to call them predatory scumbags. But for now, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.